Hello, welcome to the Melbourne Cup layback with Betfair. Always an exciting time of year. We've got through Derby Day, and I am here with the man of the moment. Is the Betfair Hub Melbourne Cup specialist. Your preview's going through the roof, Hawk. So welcome in Andrew Hawkins. How are you, mates?
Oh, mate, it's good to be here. It's an exciting time of year. Not sleeping much at the moment, but ready for a big run into Tuesday and hopefully find the winner. Fingers crossed.
How much work do you put into a Melbourne Cup preview like you've got on the Betfair Hub?
Yeah, look, a lot, and it goes it goes on for months and months, just trying to get everything, get your head around everything, trying to make sure that you don't miss any angle. But look, it's fantastic. I love it.
It's your favourite race of the year?
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a challenge. It's a real puzzle to try and figure it all out. There's great races throughout the year that I love to watch, that I love to get invested in. But the Melbourne Cup is the one that is that puzzle that if you can solve it, it brings you kudos for another year.
Oh, it does too. That is spot on. You've gone a little left field with your on-top selection, which we'll get to later in the program, but tune in. Also head to Betfair Hub because Hawk's preview is a great read. It's very detailed, thorough, and you put a lot of work into it, mate. So well done. I've had a read last night. It was fantastic. So thank you for that. I already know what you're tipping, which is great. As usual with these shows, we start with the lay bin, but what do you got, mate? You got anything for us? Anything exciting with the lay bin this week?
Well, mate, I have to say I've been in Melbourne now for a week. I'm Sydney-based. And
travelled the world.
Well, yeah, travelled the world. Been very lucky, but been great to be back in Melbourne. But I must say, Uber drivers here cannot understand them. They cancel on you all the time. What is up with that?
It is a joke, isn't it?
I was at Flemington last night. It was 9:30, trying to get home.
9:30?
Yeah, 9:30.
I
was the last person there.
Where were you at 9:30?
Unfortunately, nowhere exciting.
In the press room, probably.
Yeah, the press room. I was the last person there.
You're finishing this preview.
Yeah, that's it. Exactly. Trying to make sure I got it out and made sure that Betfair punters had the opportunity to read it. But I swear, just sitting there trying to get an Uber, cancel. It's raining. What do you do? Thankfully, a taxi comes down trying to find a race goer. They found me. I'm only going about a kilometre up the road. But
did he cancel on you?
No, he didn't.
Just get in first.
I just got in first, said we're going, and I paid him triple what I would have paid otherwise. But, worth it.
When you're Andrew Hawkins, you can afford to do that.
Well, hopefully after Tuesday we can afford it.
I reckon, Carl, we might be paying him too much. Now, that's in the lay bin. Your shoes. You've walked in here into this nice producing studio wearing gumboots.
Yeah, I must admit.
You've been in the mud, mate.
Look, been splashing around. It's not hard to find a bit of mud at the moment. It's very wet out there, and it's meant to be even wetter in the lead up to Tuesday.
What's going on?
No, mate, I've been out at Living Legends, been out with a few of the past Melbourne Cup winners, hoping to get their idea of who the Melbourne Cup winner is. Right. You'll find out who they like a little later on, I'm sure.
Right. I've got a parking ticket on Friday, and I'm absolutely, I've dirtied up about this. Absolutely filthy. I should get out of it. But
where did you get it?
Albert Park. Parked at Albert Park. It's literally 200 metres from my house. So I should have walked less than one, but it was raining. Parked. The button to get a ticket. I actually bought a ticket, right? The buttons weren't working. So the number plate was wrong on the ticket that I put in because the buttons weren't working. Came out, parking ticket. It's just
fight it. That's
a fight. Who has time at this time of year to
I know,
fight
that's the problem.
It's the worst time. Any other time, anyone wants a PA or wants a job, I'll pay you $20 to get out of my parking fine. All right, let's get stuck in the Melbourne Cup. Now, we're filming this Sunday. We've got 2 days of rain forecast, up to 15 mil Monday, up to 15 mil Tuesday. We're on about a 7 on Saturday. What are you doing the form for on Tuesday?
Yeah, it was a 7 on Saturday. Looking like you get a bit of sun today, Sunday, which will help. And it is one of the best draining tracks that there is around. But as you say, 15 mils Monday, 15 mils Tuesday. They're also saying possibility of small hail Tuesday afternoon. So, it might be a case of testing out whether the Melbourne Cups run rain, hail or shine. We'll see whether that happens. But
hopefully not a repeat of Manicato night because that was a disaster. Speaking of Ubers cancelling, that was disgusting.
Trying to get out of Moonee Valley that night would have been
unbelievable.
Yeah.
Never seen anything like it.
Yeah, I remember that Newmarket about 10 years ago where they had hail as well. So hopefully we get away with no hail. I'm doing it on a heavy track. I think we're definitely going to get to a heavy track. It just depends what scale of heavy. 8 or 9, I'd be saying, especially if there's rain during the meeting. I think that's going to determine it. If there's
that's
rain,
the key, isn't it?
Yeah, if there's rain morning of the race, gets a chance to dry out during the day. Even if they're racing on it, I think you'll be on an 8. But if it rains during the meeting, you'll be on a 9, maybe a 10.
Well, as usual, we start with the speed map of big races like this. Now, I'm interested in who you've got leading, what the tempo is. A lot of these staying races in Australia at the moment, there's not a lot of speed. It looks a little bit of speed drawn wide as well, which is interesting in the Cup.
And I think that was the thing. Watching the barrier draw last night, I was thrilled to see Knight's Order draw out wide, Serpentine draw out wide, because I think that's really going to set up the race. As you say, Caulfield Cup, I mean, look, I was thrilled with the Caulfield Cup, thrilled with that result. Oh, thank you very much.
We'll get to that in a second, actually.
No, with that obviously slowly run race, Cox Plate slowly run race. Actually, basically any staying race that we've had this time in. I mean, the Turnbull was a barrier trial even. I know that not necessarily a staying race, but obviously a key lead up for the Melbourne Cup. So, look, to see a bit of speed in there, it might actually mean that we get to see a bit of a different dynamic. I think Serpentine will probably lead. I reckon that Lloyd Williams and Robert Hickmott will give Johnny Allen the same instructions that they gave Jai McNeil on Twilight Payment a couple of years ago. Go out and lead, try and up the tempo throughout. Very similar to a European staying race.
Yep.
And I think then we'll see Knight's Order probably come across as well. Either sit outside leader or potentially just sit off Serpentine and dictate the rest of the field on his own terms. Point Nepean drawn wide, I think he'll probably go forward. Arapaho is one of these horses that can sometimes go forward, sometimes goes back. Yep. Not sure what they'll do there. So, look, there does look to be a bit of speed. There's
Smokin Roman's handy, Grand Promenade handy from an inside barrier potentially, and a few chances to get back in the ruck as well, which is going to be interesting.
Exactly. But I think, as you say, Smokin Roman's probably one of the horses that ends up in the right spot. Vow and Declare, if they go forward again like they did in the Cup a couple of years ago, he's drawn barrier 4. He's drawn to lob into a beautiful position. And so there are a couple of horses there, as you say. And Deauville Legend, every chance he gets a lovely run in transit as well.
Drawn barrier 9, Deauville Legend. Now, you mentioned the Caulfield Cup and Durston. I want to bring a video up before we get to the serious stuff. Have a look at this.
Come on, Mickey. Come on, Mickey. Get him out, Mickey. Come on, Mickey. Come on, Durston. Come on, Durston. Come on, Durston. Come on. Come on. Yes. 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 Woo. I don't know whether to give you a cuddle or pick you while you're down. This horse is an amazing horse. Well done, mate.
What's going on there, mate? Congratulations, firstly.
Oh, mate.
How are you feeling?
Look, it's been a mixed week. Look, I'm racing manager. I don't actually have a share in the horse, but
looks like it.
I know. Well, believe me, when you know what this horse has been through, he's had a number of issues, and obviously that's now been well documented. He failed the vet for the Melbourne Cup. We think it might just be old scar tissue. We think he'll be fine, but it's one of those things that you can't take any risks when it comes to the Melbourne Cup.
Congratulations, and I love to see the passion. It went viral, that video. Do you have to go through the same rules and regulations and vets and procedures heading to a Caulfield Cup?
Not to any other race.
Do you think he would have run in a Caulfield Cup if the same process happened?
No, and that's because they would have found this same thing.
Same thing. So it's an existing condition. It's nothing new.
Well, that's what we believe. But again, he's now got to go through the nuclear MRI scintigraphy, which will allow them to see exactly what this grey area or this lesion is. And from there, they'll know what it is, hopefully. But
how do you feel about it all?
Look, I think it's necessary.
Yep.
As a fan of the Melbourne Cup, I think it's just outstanding that we've now got these procedures in place, because the last thing we want to see is, you get that front page the next day and it's horses broken down. Yeah, Melbourne Cup. It would kill the Melbourne Cup at this stage, having had such a run of them between, say, 2013 and 2020. So from a Melbourne Cup passionate Melbourne Cup fans' perspective, all for it. Disappointing for Connections. The owner's obviously devastated that the horse can't run. But look, the horse is safe and sound. He'll go through that procedure, and it doesn't necessarily rule him out. Look at Young Werther. He's a horse who last year failed the vet. had some time off. His issues healed. He's back in the Melbourne Cup this year. So it is possible that you can pass the vet again next year, and hopefully Durston might get the chance for redemption next year.
So still, you see both sides of the story, I guess.
Oh, absolutely. And I think you have to. I think you have to be pragmatic about it. And as I say, the last thing, especially with my journalism or my media hat on, the last thing you want to see is another horse breakdown in the Melbourne Cup. I think it was an unlucky run. But anything they can do to be able to protect that, I think, is necessary.
All right, let's go to the Melbourne Cup, runner by runner. We'll go through it. We'll fly through any that we can put a pen through. Starting with number 1, Gold Trip. He was enormous behind your favourite Durston in the Caulfield Cup. He was really good there. He went back to the 2040, the Cox Plates last start. I thought he did enough there. What do you make of his chances?
Yeah, look, it was a good run. I thought at Moonee Valley as well. Just got caught in the wrong spot. And probably just got on heels late, which meant that he finished 9th on paper, but he probably would have finished 6th or 7th there. And then if you consider the fact he might have had a run through as well.
Jamie Spencer, a few people criticising the ride there.
I don't think it was the best ride, and I don't think that his ride on light infantry in the Golden Eagle was any better.
He's in the lay bin.
He is in the lay bin. Put him in the lay bin.
So Gold Trip, where does he sit?
Look, I think Gold Trip, they'll probably try and sit midfield. Drawn barrier 14. I think Mackay Diva won twice from 14. So, they'll probably try to get into a midfield spot. Mark Zara, Blinker's coming off. I think the query is the 2 miles. If he was to run out the 2 miles, I think he's a big chance, even with the weight. Look, it's more of a compressed set weights and penalties race this year, so I'm not too concerned about the 57.5. I think the query for him is going to be just whether he gets out that 2 miles.
And you've got him around the top 10 position, but without threatening the winners there.
Yeah, that's I think about right. About 7th or 8th is where I'd sort of see him.
I thought he peaked on the run in the Caulfield Cup a bit. He ran the fastest 200-metre split between the 6 and the 400, and then the second fastest split between the 400 and the 200, but only the 10th fastest home. So that's got to be a huge query with top weight, the 3,200 metres. I'm more inclined to risk him in the top 8 market.
I think that's fair. I think, look, as I say, it just depends on how this race is run, and I think that's
he does bring class.
He does bring class, and he swims as well. He loves it wet.
Yep. All right. How do you pronounce number 2 here? DUAIS?
I've always said DUAIS, but there are a number of different pronunciations. When I saw Ed Cummings a few months ago, he said DUAIS, so I've always stuck with DUAIS.
DUAIS. Well, he'll know. Class horse, targeted this race for a long time. She has been 55.5 kilos. Makes it interesting. 3,200 metres for the first time. What do you make of her?
Well, look, with DUAIS, I think looking at it as a heavy 8 track, I think would be okay. I think if she get onto worse than that, I think she will struggle just because she's seemed to get onto those gluey tracks and she just really struggles to pick herself up. We saw that in the Queen Elizabeth earlier in the year, but this has been the target all along. She was so good winning the Tancred, and that just looked like the run of a horse that will relish the 2 miles. She's improved every preparation, and I think her run... I was disappointed with her run in the Turnbull, but I think her run in the Caulfield Cup suggests she's right on song. Again, just doesn't want too much rain.
She ran the second fastest final 200 metres in that Caulfield Cup. I thought it was good run. She warmed up late. We'll get to who ran the fastest 200 metres in a minute, but where do you mark her?
Yeah, look, I think, again, when I was looking at it last night, I was thinking soft 7, heavy 8, and with that, I had her right around the mark. I had her 5th when I did my market, and I had her about $13, which I think is definitely... Yeah, absolutely. I am surprised to see her at twice that price at the moment with Betfair. I think if she gets that track, she'll be okay. Again, if it gets worse than that, then she probably falls down a bit in terms of that estimation.
$28 on Betfair at the moment. DUAIS. Head to number 3 here, Knight's Order. You said potentially sitting outside the lead, Serpentine there. Crosses, Tim Clark, great front running ride. This horse ticks a lot of boxes for me, and I've got him right in the mix. He's a bet for me in the top 5, top 10, top 8 markets as well. I think he does nothing but run well. He's flying, Knight's Order. He's $30 on Betfair at the moment. Where do you have him?
At the moment, I have him 6th.
6th, yep. Good to hear.
I think looking at the race, he's just one of these horses that, as you say, is flying and has been running well on good tracks, which is a big tick to his armour, given that he's generally been a wet tracker. We saw what he did on a really heavy track in the Sydney Cup. Rachel King gave him an absolutely perfect ride there. Timmy Clark, again, as you say, great rider of front runners. We've seen him come through the Chelmsford. He just hasn't run a poor race this preparation. And I think a lot of people are looking at the fact he ran 19th last year. Was just out of form. He'd run in the Lexus 3 days before. He was pretty poor there as well. Yep. Just a different horse this time in, and I think especially the more rain that comes, the better his chances become.
Yeah, well, he's run top 3 in 4 of 5 heavy track runs. Swimmer, gets map favours. He won the Sydney Cup on a heavy 10. He's an absolute swimmer. So ticks so many boxes. I've got him in that around that 5 or 6 mark as well, Hawk. I agree with you there. Now, let's get to the mare, MONTEFILIA here. She ran the fastest 200 metres in a Caulfield Cup. She's a great mare. She's, what is she, 4-time Group 1 winner?
4-time Group 1 winner,
4-time Group 1 winner, and she was great in the Caulfield Cup. Can she stay the 3,200 metres?
I don't think so.
Ooh.
But I think that she can. I think she'll run an honest race. She'll be one of these horses that is around the mark. She's going to perform well. She'll be honest, but I just don't think that she will see out that 2 miles. But that said, I always thought she was a query at 2,400 metres until she got that win in the Metrop last year. And then you saw her at Caulfield last time out. Fantastic run in the Caulfield Cup. Arguably should have won. I'm glad she didn't, but arguably should have.
How many times are you going to drop Durston's name on the show?
We'll see. You maybe might have to have a counter there somewhere.
Cha-ching.
Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. But MONTEFILIA, look, as you say, she's underrated, really. The fact that she's got those 4 Group 1 wins. She did manage to beat Very Elegant at her last Group 1 win. That was in the Randbit, and that was on a heavy track. As I say, this is the 2 miles that would keep me from having her higher up, but then class will take her a long, long way.
She's a mare with 55.5 as well, and I'm more inclined to lay her at the $13. I agree with you. I think that 3,200 metres, if she didn't run the fastest final 200 metres, I'd be dead set against her. But her Caulfield Cup run just really piqued my interest. It was a really good run, but just think she's short enough at that $12.50. Head to number 5, NUMERIAN. Are we just laying him, plotting him, can't win?
Just don't think he can stay out the 2 miles. I think he struggled at the mile and a half in the Caulfield Cup.
I agree. He was one of the plainer horses home. I think he's a class horse, but he just, 3,200 metres, he might find a couple stronger. Let's get to the international, number 6 here, Without a Fight. Currently $12.50, the same price as MONTEFILIA. If you could compare the two, you'd rather be Without a Fight?
Easy.
Easy?
A Fight, yeah. Without a Fight, I actually have rated basically on terms with DEAUVILLE Legend. I think he should be challenging for favouritism.
Wow.
So I'm surprised that you're getting that sort of a price about Without a Fight. Look, as I had DEAUVILLE Legend favourite in my assessed market, but there was like a half point between the two of them. So he produced arguably the best beat and run in this field earlier this year. He ran second to a horse called Hawkins.
Yep.
That was in the Dubai City of Gold, which is the main lead up to the Shima Classic on World Cup night. 2,400 metres there at Meydan. I was there for Shima Classic. Yeah.
Right. Of course you were.
Yeah, bit of travelling, but no, Without a Fight was really good that night because he ran to the lead at about the 500 metres, stayed on really stoutly. Hawkins just managed to grab him late, but he actually was fighting back late, and they've come away from third. Got right back in the field in the Shima Classic and just didn't make ground. They ran really slowly in that race, so you can forgive that run. Hawkins came out and won one of their big mile and a half races in England at a Group 1 level later in the year at the Coronation Cup at Epsom. Won that by like 5 lengths. So really good form there. Without a Fight, went back to the UK. Was a bit plain in his first run back in the UK, but then came out and won 2 races over the 2,800 metres at York. Small fields, but what I loved about them was the way that he quickened. And
you need to turn a foot, these internationals. We've seen Dower stayers come here for Melbourne Cups because they're probably not as genuinely run. You still need to turn a foot.
And that's what I think you see with this horse. You know, he's been running in small fields, but that's not necessarily a negative because he does have to quicken. You do end up it being more of a sprint home, which is more similar to what you're going to find in Australia. Last time out, good enough effort in the Godolphin back to the 2,400 metres. We'll relish the 3,200 metres. Jumps from barrier 18, which until last year, there'd never been a winner from barrier 18, but Very Elegant won from that gate last year. Simon Crisford, Ed Crisford, father and son training duo. They know what they're doing. William Buick, he seems to have improved every time he's come to Australia as a rider. Seems to understand the race more. I think it's good that he's drawn out wide. I'm not sure where he's going to end up in the run. He could go forward, could come back. I'd probably prefer them to push forward.
Hard knowing where he sits, been running in such small fields too.
And that's it. I mean, but even in bigger fields in Dubai, he was further forward in the City of Gold. Yep. He got back in the field in the Shima Classic. I think personally, I'd prefer to see them roll the dice, take him further
Put him
forward.
Into the race. Yep.
Exactly. And when you've got those horses coming across from out wide, they can sort of take you across, and then Buick can end up in that spot 5th, 6th, 7th. And if he ends up in that position, I think he's going to be hard to beat. You're
very bullish on number 6 Without a Fight. Currently $12.50 on Betfair. Just before we move on to another couple of internationals, wet track, heavy track, any concern?
Yeah, that is probably the concern without a fight. Most of his runs have been on good tracks, good to soft even, which would be the equivalent of about a soft 5, soft 6. Getting beyond that, it is a concern, but I mean the TFOs. He's a TFO. They tend to swim.
Yep.
I'd be thinking it is a concern, but I'd also want to see him in it. I'm not going to rule a line through him just because he hasn't been exposed to it before.
Let's get to the next international in line, number 7, CAMORRA. He's a bigger price than a lot of the other internationals. Obviously, he's about $60 on Betfair at the moment. What do you make of him?
Yeah, interesting horse, CAMORRA, because he was actually bred by Bob Scarborough. So he was bred by an Australian, was racing for an Irish syndicate, then bought again for an Australian syndicate. So he's sort of had Australia in his life throughout his life and his career. But
can a horse come off a 20-length defeat, 21-length defeat and win a Melbourne Cup?
Well, the one thing I will say, Kyprios, who won that race, then went to France. Again, I was there that day in France. So, yeah, travelling a bit.
You got any savings, mate?
No, actually, to be honest.
I should ask you that.
That's why I need to do gigs like this, of course. Yeah. No, Kyprios, and then he came out and won by 20 lengths.
Yes,
he won the Prix de Cadran. So,
what price would Kyprios be?
Oh, short. Very, very short. Although, to be fair, Kyprios, I'm actually not sure he'd be the right type for a Melbourne Cup. I know they're trying to chase him hard to try and get him to Melbourne. But look, with that, he can improve. But I think he can improve if it was a good track. If he was getting onto a good track, I think he'd be okay. But, you take that Curragh Cup run out, and the Curragh Cup has been a really good guide. It's probably been the most underrated guide for an international race. It's produced horses like Vintage Crop, Rekindling, Twilight Payment. Red Cadeau won it before he ran second. So it is a really good guide. But CAMORRA probably needs that good track. You see his form around that on soft, heavy ground, and he just doesn't quicken on it in the same manner. So for me, happy to lay.
Interesting his last 5 runs, and I haven't gone back further. 63 kilos, 61 kilos, 62.5, 62, 62. Like a lot of these internationals carry weight.
They do, and that's the thing. It's a lot of them carry those heavier weights, which is why I think the idea of them coming here and getting 55, it's quite appealing, even though in terms of the handicaps, maybe not so well handicapped.
True. So we're inclined to risk CAMORRA at the price. One horse we won't be risking, maybe at the price. Number 8, Deauville Legend is the favourite. Is he a worthy favourite?
I should just say as well, CAMORRA is the only bet I still have left on the
Cup,
Betfair market.
But you don't like him?
Don't like him. I took 100 to 1 about him or thereabouts in August. So
you can still lay off.
I can still lay off, and I think that's probably the plan. To be honest, I'll be trying to make something out of that. Although, I mean, I should have laid off at 33s, which he was a couple of weeks ago. Anyway.
Oh, well, mate. Bad punting.
Deauville Legend. Look, as you say, a horse who is a well-deserved favourite. Won one of the really strong 1.5 mile races there in the UK, the Great Voltage last time out. Important to note for those that don't know international racing, in the Group 1s over 1.5 mile there in the UK, geldings can't run.
Yes.
So the fact that he's won the Great Voltage, that's the best race that he can contest at 1.5 mile as a gelding. So
really interesting.
So that's a big pointer there. Obviously, El Bodegon third. We saw him run on well in the Cox Plate.
So he was great in the Cox Plate.
He was really, really good. Yep. I expected him to go forward. He ended up back, but finished off really nicely. I don't think he stayed that day, El Bodegon, whereas Deauville Legend saw out that 1.5 mile very clearly. The form before that was good. Second in the Gordon Stakes at Goodwood. Huyamal was third, but clearly the better stayer was Deauville Legend. Bahrain Trophy, very good win, and very good in that handicap at Royal Ascot. So what I think's been the key of him, he's just kept improving all season. He'll see out the 1.5 mile. He'll see out the 2 miles, and I think it's just now about whether he's going to handle a heavy track. But again, with that sort of a pedigree, and that's all I can really go off, I think he'd probably handle it.
Yep. Huge upside. 1 3 of 7, 3 further second placings. He's on top for me. It's just about what price you want to take. $3.95 currently on Betfair. I think the internationals are better than the locals, and that's the way I'll be playing the race. We move on to number 9, Stockman. Quick backup from Saturday. Heads from Sydney to Melbourne. Yes or no? Simply?
No, but watching that run yesterday, if that had been in the old McKinnon, that would have been considered a perfect cup trial. Now, again, he swims, but I don't think he's got the class.
Fair enough. It's a really interesting horse. One horse that we know has the class is number 10, Vow and Declare. He's won it before. think he's going really well this time in. He was good in the Caulfield Cup last start. What do you make of him?
Flying compared to his last couple of years. Probably not at the level that he was when he won the Cup. But again, he's up in the weights now compared to being a lightweight back then. To get him back, I mean, Danny O'Brien and Jeff Corrigan and the team, that's an incredible job that they've done to actually get him back to this sort of level. Very good on those big weights, the 61 kilos, both at Caulfield and then at Flemington. Obviously meets high motion much better at the weights. I think 3 kilos better. Wasn't bad in the Bart Cummings late. And then, stuck on really well in the Caulfield Cup. Again, I think that's probably him. I think if Blake Shin can get him into a position from gate 4, he'll be a top 10 contender. I think that's the way you got to look at it. Probably a good chance to play, to finish 6th, 7th, 8th.
Yep, I tend to agree. I don't see him winning, but he's in the mix for that top 10 marker for sure. He's only won 4 races. Hasn't won a race since he won the Melbourne Cup. Interesting, fascinating horse to see him back, but he draws well. He can run all right. Number 11, Young Werther, barrier 21. Danny O'Brien, Damian Lane on board. Yay, nay?
Not for me.
Not for me either. I'm happy to be against him. A bit of a long tail to this race.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Number 12, Huya Mal's a really interesting runner. Gay Waterhouse and Adrian Bott purchased this horse with one target in mind. That was the Melbourne Cup. Craig Williams jumps on board. I think you're against him. I have so much respect for these internationals. I give him a much better chance than you do in this race, but I'm interested to hear what you think.
Look, I just don't think he'll stay, to be honest. Right. Watching him in those races when he got up to the 2,800 metres, he won that race at Goodwood, the March Stakes, 4-horse field, probably the weakest Group 3 you will have seen on the planet this year. There's
been a few bad ones in Melbourne and Sydney.
No, there have been, but this one was particularly bad. Right. There was, you talk long tails, there was a really long tail in that. He was $1.30 favourite, and if he didn't win by 2.5 lengths or more, you would have been saying really disappointing. Just didn't look a stayer in the St. Ledger for mine. I actually think he's going to be the type of horse who will drop back and trip next season and will be a really nice sort of 1.25 miles, 2,000 metre type horse. Could even be a Cox Plate horse. So I'm not saying he doesn't have the class. I'm just saying I don't think he stays.
Fair enough. I don't mind that. I think Gay Waterhouse polish and what she knows. I think they're a good judge and they get them rock hard fit. So they're putting my hope, if I was to back Huya Mal, on the fact that she gets it right. That's 12 runners done. I want to ask you. Let's get back to school. I want to ask you a couple of questions. Firstly, Melbourne Cup. We've got 24 runners. For anyone out there that's watching this show on a Sunday night or a Monday, what's the starting point? How do you start getting the field and dissecting Melbourne Cup with so many runners and whatnot? Yeah,
I mean, for me, look, it starts months and months before and following it through. But if you are coming to it late, which I think most people do.
Probably watch this show.
Exactly, that's it. I'm sure this has got, I'm sure that, once your punters are watching this and going, how do I start on a Melbourne Cup?
Yeah.
No, I'm sure, most people have got some sort of an idea. But for me, I think if you watch those key lead-ups, especially those races that you see popping up time and time again in the form, I think with a Melbourne Cup, I think it's so important to actually watch the races rather than trying to understand it from reading a recap or looking at the bare form. I think you really need to
replays.
Exactly. And I think replays are crucial. I mean, especially this year, the Caulfield Cup, the Bart Cummings, the Metrop in Sydney.
And you got the key international races
exactly.
as well.
And the good thing is most of their form ties in together, at least somehow. I mean, Without a Fight comes away a bit differently. CAMORRA is a bit different. And then, Huya Mal and Deauville Legend tend to be together. But if you can go back and watch a couple of those races, especially the most recent races and their most recent wins, then I think you get a grasp on how they perform. And then you can sort of try to make a decision from there and a determination on where they sit.
Yep, that's fair. Now, internationals. It's all about the internationals. I'm heavily invested in the internationals this year. They've got a great record in the race. How do you go about doing the international form? Obviously, you look at these races 3 or 4 months out, 6 months out, profile horses, work out who's coming, who's not coming. But the key races you watch every year heading into a Melbourne Cup?
I mean, there are key races, and there's actually quite a number of them. But there are a few different races that are likely to throw up a Melbourne Cup horse. Like the Curragh Cup, for instance. We were talking about it back in June because we knew that the likelihood was that there was a Melbourne Cup horse there. Obviously, we saw CAMORRA come out of that race. So that helps.
Ebor,
which is, again, and that's where I think Without a Fight is underrated because it is that Ebor course and distance. He's coming through those similar races, and if he was coming here as an Ebor winner, I think he'd be half the price he is. So again, it's trying to figure out where these horses are coming from. the Irish St Ledgers tends to be a race. CAMORRA's coming out of that, even though he didn't perform that well. The English St Ledger this year, we're seeing Huya Mal come out of that race. So again, I think there's sort of a few different races that tend to throw up horses. And I think if you have a look at the history, I mean, you can find it on Google. There are certain races that people always watch for a Melbourne Cup horse, and I think plenty of them are represented this year.
Want to ask you about weights real quickly.
Yeah.
Obviously, weights is a huge thing. You got to get in the race as a handicap. So getting into the race is the key, but getting in with a winnable weight is also key. Is there a weight that you don't really know what I'm asking, but is there a weight that you go looking forward? You look for the light weighted chances that are weighted well. We've got Northern Hemisphere 3-year-olds that have been weighted more this year. They got in really light in the last few years and had a great record, stuff like that.
I think weights are crucial. As a handicap, weights are crucial. Yep. But again, it is a changing beast. I mean, we saw last year all 3 place getters were right up in the weights. And so I think that the race has changed complexion, and I think the race is continually changing. So that's where it becomes a puzzle that it's not a static puzzle. It keeps developing and growing. As you said, the 3-year-olds, the European 3-year-olds, they were getting in with 51.5, 52. We're now seeing them up to 55. That said, in context, that's probably not the leap that it looks, because you're not getting the same horses up the top as you once did. So it's a moving beast. I think, though, if you can find some of these horses that are in form that do get down in the weights, they're always worth a bet, and we'll get to a couple of them in a moment. But there are horses there that are racing well, that get in light, and they're always a chance.
All right, let's move on. Races, horses 13 to 24. We start with Serpentine. You've got him leading on the back up from the Archer Stakes on Saturday. 2,500 metres. He ticked that box. I thought he ran well behind Surefire. Yes, no, Barry 23.
I think, again, top 10, he's going to be one I'm going to be absolutely having a bet on in top 10. Because, as you say, up on speed, he's a horse that when he won the Derby in England, and I mean, it's crazy. Again, if you'd said a decade ago we'd have Derby winners down here racing in the Melbourne Cup, it just would have seemed absurd. But I think if you look at the way that horses are going, he's a horse that when he won the Derby, he was at a long price. I think he was 25 to 1, which by Derby standards is a long price. Yep. But he got out and was rolling. He went 5-6 lengths clear, and they just couldn't reel him in. I think that's the way he has to be ridden. I think, as I said, Lloyd will say to John Allen, do what you did on Saturday, what Jai McNeil did on Twilight Payment. Get out, get rolling, make it a European-style race, and I think he'll probably stick on well. Can he win? Look, I'm not sure. If you'd said before Saturday that he was a winning chance, I would have laughed at you. But that run on Saturday was enough to say that they've figured out the key to win. They put the blinkers on. Again, and the wet track might also be a negative for him. Probably doesn't completely swim, but I'd expect him to go forward and be in it for a fair way.
There you go. Number 14, DAQIANSWEET Jr. Mixes his form a little bit, this horse. Playing last start in the Bart Cummings.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. He was building up nicely, but I thought in the Bart Cummings, he was really the only horse to weaken out noticeably. I think that, look, he ran well in the Sydney Cup, which was in that race with Knight's Order. Meets Knight's Order better at the weights, but I think that Knight's Order is going better. So I think on that alone, you'd have Knight's Order quite significantly ahead of DAQIANSWEET Jr.
Fair enough. Number 15, Grand Promenade, drawn barrier 1. Harry Coffey, good luck to him in the Melbourne Cup, 53 kilos.
Just wish that he was getting onto a dry track. If he was getting onto a dry track, I think he'd improve out of sight. Wet track, he's just
happy
no good.
to be against. Fair enough. Number 16, Arapaho, Rachel King, 52.5 kilos, barrier 19, works across potentially, but okay last start behind Stockman.
Yeah, he was okay, but he's racing generally pretty well. Even in those races where he's been beaten quite considerably, like in the Metrop, it's just been the way the races run. Finished behind Durston in the Newcastle Cup.
Cha-ching.
But he's a horse that I've been impressed with when he gets into the right rhythm. He needs things to go his way, but I think that he, for me, is the bet that I'll be having in the top 10 market. Ooh. I think he's the type of horse who will run 10th at that price. you wouldn't have thought that earlier in the year when he was getting beaten in Musselbrook Cups and
No.
Tamworth Cups. But I just think that he'll see out the trip and he'll be honest. So I think for a top 10 market, he'll be my main play.
Interesting. Arapaho. For the Hawk top 10, number 17, EMISSARY off a Geelong Cup win. What do you make of Geelong Cup form these days?
Yeah, I think Geelong Cup form is still okay.
Still okay?
I think we've even seen horses like Charlie Rose last year finished 9th. Maybe not necessarily that winning form, but I think it's decent enough form. And it was a really good Geelong Cup this year. There was quite a bit of depth to it. I think for me, Query at the 2 miles, Query on a wet track, enough for me to go. Not this year.
Interesting. Number 18, LUNAR Flair. Comes off a second to Francesco Guardi in the Moonee Valley Cup. What do you make of her?
Got a long way back there, finished off well, clearly best of the rest behind the runaway winner, Francesco Guardi. I hope Michael D's able to win the Caulfield Cup, Melbourne Cup double now that Durston can't do it. But look, I think that for her, she's racing really well. You know that she's going to probably eat up that 2 miles. Would be the first horse in almost 40 years to be the son or daughter of a Melbourne Cup winner. She's a daughter of Fiorente. I think she's definitely a top 10 contender, and I think she'll be somewhere there around the mark.
There you go. Number 19 is SMOKIN Romans. This horse, for me, is a big market watch. Eustace stable. They know what they're doing with their stays. Jamie Carr on board, 51.5 kilos. Barrier 16 looks okay. I know he ducked back to the inside late in the Caulfield Cup. I was disappointed. I thought he's a perfect. I thought everything was in his favour to run better than that in the Caulfield Cup. I know he was probably on the inferior ground, but I thought he was a bit plain there. 3,200 metres for him. Any issue?
Not for me. I have him on top.
Unbelievable.
I know. I was waiting for you to say that.
I did know that. I read your preview, but
no, look,
talk to me.
Okay, so yes, I agree.
Differing opinions on social media, by the way.
I know. I'm glad though. That's what we want.
That's what it's about,
and that's it. It creates the market, and that's what we want. We want people to have different opinions. I want people to take me on because
I liked
then it means
your
I get
response. You said, "Well, lay it on Betfair."
Well, that's it.
If you don't like it,
lay it on Betfair. You've got the opportunities to be able to do it. So
I like it.
for me, yes, I think could have run better in the Caulfield Cup. But the one thing that stuck out to me all prep. The Caulfield Cup was never the aim. Melbourne Cup's always been the aim.
Has it?
It has.
Always, yep.
So they won the naturalism, which was a bit of a surprise for them. They had Gold Trip there that day, and they went there thinking Gold Trip would win for the stable, especially once the heavens opened. But SMOKIN Romans managed to win, which won his way in. Ran well in that Turnbull Stakes. Obviously won the race, but got the right run to be able to perform.
Yep.
Dropped in the weights in the Caulfield Cup. I think was in the inferior ground. I think was probably entitled to do a little bit more, but I just think that, again, it was more of a stepping stone towards the Melbourne Cup. 2 miles, I think, will be no problem. Ever since last year when he was winning those races like the Pakenham Cup, I thought he was the type of horse who would get 2 miles. Probably didn't think he'd be into a Melbourne Cup, but I can't believe that if you told me 12 months ago I'd be tipping SMOKIN Romans in a Melbourne Cup, I would have said you're absolutely mad.
I still think a few people think you're mad tipping him now. But anyway.
Plenty of people do, but that's where, as I say, lay him on Betfair. I'll happily take that price. So for me, SMOKIN Romans. Again, if there's one horse down in the weights that I think can beat the internationals, it's him.
Fascinating market watch. If there's money for him, I think with all the work they do at the Eustace stable and all the knowledge they have about their testing of aerobic capacity and stuff like that, if there's money for him, I'll be very nervous. I could potentially save on SMOKIN Romans, especially after that case you just made. Number 20, Charlie Rose, barrier 22, Dean Yendall. Any hope?
Not for me. No.
Not for you. Number 21, Point Nepean.
Not going well enough.
Not going well enough. Number 22. Now, good luck to our man Glenn Ingram. He's got a share in this horse. Very exciting for him. $100 odd on Betfair. I'll be having a few dollars on this horse. Gets through the wet, ticks a few boxes. I reckon he'll get to a big price.
Yeah, look, I probably think she's not good enough, but she's one of these mares that is racing well. And again, if she was able to get the right run, which she can do from gate 8, she's the type who we've seen what she can do at Flemington. We saw that a few starts ago when she beat Bow and Declare in that 2,500 metre quality. So while I'll be against her, she's the type who wouldn't surprise me if she gets into the top 10. She would surprise me, though, if she finished much ahead of 10th. I
thought she was holding Port Phillip in the Bendigo Cup. She's a better horse off a faster tempo and with a sting out of the track. So she gets a few favours here. She could get up to $100 on Betfair, and I'll have a couple of Peanut on that. Good luck to Glenn, as I said. Number 23, Interpretations, found his way into the field. Blinkers go on. No?
The blinkers might spark him up. The thing with him is every time he's raced in Australia, he's loomed up like he's going to go on with the job, and he's just weakened.
Yep.
Now, again, headgear might be the key, but for me, he still looks like he's 12 months away. So I could be tipping him in 12 months' time, but for me, not on Tuesday.
Number 24, Realm of Flowers. Now she's in a race. I've got her as a big chance. Top 4, top 5 hope for me. Probably the best of the locals, in my opinion, Realm of Flowers. Please give me a plug here, Hawk.
I like her a lot.
You like her?
I like her a lot. I think that run in the Metrop was really, really good. Probably the best run in the Metropolitan.
Gee, she hasn't been lucky in...
No.
Copped probably some average rides, but bad luck in big features.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the thing is with her, again, she was guaranteed a run last year, injured herself, and she was actually going really well. That Bar Cummings run leading in would have been the ideal Melbourne Cup prep. Unfortunately, didn't make it to the race. The thing is, even this prep, like she was in that Premier Prelude, and she finished off late really, really well. It shows that she was beaten 10 lengths by Lord Ardmore, but she was right out the back and looked like she was going nowhere. And the way that she quickened suggested she was right back on track, and she's shown that again. Again, beaten a long way by Cadre de Noir. Probably not the right form for this, you wouldn't have thought. But that Metrop run, she was wide all the way. Probably should have won the race. She had horses like Durston in behind her. And actually some of the owners at Durston, the McCluers, are also in Realm of Flowers. So at least they've got a runner this year. They'll be happy. I think they're in Huya Mal as well. But for me, Realm of Flowers, again, going to get the right run. You think that finally she's actually going to have that sweet run into it. It's just going to be about Damien getting her off the fence at the right time, ensuring that he can build into the race. And if she gets her chance, she's going to be hard to beat.
Love the push. She's definitely in my top 4 or 5. All right, time for your top 4 or 5, mate. Let's go for it.
So for me, my top 4, I'm going SMOKIN Romans. Again, I know.
Unbelievable.
Look, I think there's plenty.
Would you have had Durston on top of?
I was thinking I was going to
ask this question.
No, I was thinking I was going to have to do it without Durston in there, because I think I would have been biased. Look, to be frank, on a heavy track, no, I wouldn't have, because I don't think he quickens as well on a heavy track. But soft track, yes.
So just head to betfair.com.au /hub, find Hawk's preview, because he's got the percentage chance of winning, the market, and his assessed price all there. So SMOKIN Romans, you haven't got him favourite, but you've got him the best overlay potentially and the best value in the race.
I think he's the best value in the race. He's the best overlay. Without a fight, similar overlay in percentage terms.
Yep.
And to me, they're the two that I'll be backing heavily to win. Deauville Legend third, definite chance, and I had him favourite, but he's now under the odds, I feel. And Realm of Flowers 4. My top 4. Really
interesting to see what the market does with Deauville Legend. I'm fascinated what happens. We're going to the Cooler Card on Monday, and then we've got the races late, and the money late on Cup Day is going to be fascinating. So watch the market. Head to Betfair Live as well. I've got Deauville Legend on top. I know I'm not saying too much. I think he's a class horse. I think the internationals are better than the locals, and that's the way I'll be playing. I've got Without a Fight second. So Deauville Legend from Without a Fight. I think Realm of Flowers is the best of the locals. I want to find a case for the likes of CAMORRA and the other internationals, Huya Mal, but I just think those two stand out, Without a Fight and Deauville Legend, so I've got them clearly ahead of the others.
I think you've got it right there personally. As I say, CAMORRA, I think dry track would have been a huge player. Wet track, no. And Huya Mal, again, if he was getting back to the 2,000 metres or so, I think huge chance. If he was in a Rosefield Gold Cup yesterday, I think he would have won that with his leg in the air, but just not the 2 miles.
Fair enough. What are your plays in the race? Any lays for maybe the win market or top 5, top 10?
I mean, the thing is, where this market's so fascinating is that you've got Deauville Legend clearly ahead, and then you've got a lot of
double figures the rest.
But there's a lot there between that sort of 10 and 20 mark. I mean, I think Huya Mal for me is a lay. He was quite short yesterday. He was $21 yesterday, but
you've got him marked at around 50s.
I've got about 50s. So for me, he's a lay.
Would you lay him in the top 3, top 5 markets as well?
Huya Mal, yes. Yeah,
there
absolutely.
You go. So there's a bet for Hawk.
I think potentially I'd even lay him in the top 10 market. I'd take him on to that extent.
Ooh,
so
I like it.
So I think that's to me where I'd be playing. I think that if you look at the top 10 market, I'd be backing horses like Arapaho, Serpentine. I think they're the two types that, again, will be at different different points of the field, but I think that they're the types that could easily sneak into the top 10, and I'll be playing those. And there's a couple there as well. I love these head-to-head markets.
Head to betfair.com.au, plenty head-to-head. We'll go through a few of them. Gold Trip versus Without a Fight.
Yeah, without a fight for me.
Yep, I'll agreeing with you there. Montefilia, Val Declare.
Montefilia for me.
Huya Mal, Smokin' Romans. Well, we know that one.
Well, Smokin' Romans. And the thing is, Huya Mal was favourite when I had a look before. I don't know if he still is.
About even, I think.
Okay.
Maybe the Smokin' Romans money coming for it. But.
Well, when I had a look earlier, it was about $1.90 Smokin' Romans. And I was thinking if you could get even money Smokin' Romans against Huya Mal, I'd be all in on that.
Well, that's A versus B, number 3 there in the Betfair markets. Without a Fight, Deauville Legend. That's an interesting one.
That is a fascinating one. Without a Fight, when I was having a look before, was edging towards $3. Again, if you can get $3 for that head-to-head, I'd be all over that.
EMISSARY, Realm of Flowers. I'm heavily Realm of Flowers there.
I'm heavily Realm of Flowers, and I didn't think there was quite the value in that market.
And DUAIS versus STOCKMAN.
Yeah, DUAIS.
There you go, mates. Well, that's it. Any other bets for the Cup?
No, for me, those are the ones I'm going to be playing. I'd even consider having something like a Serpentine top 8, top 5 even. There's a couple there.
Bit of value there.
He's the type who, again, while I have him rated at a big price, I don't think he'll win, but I think he's the type who can stick around for a bit of prize money.
All right, let's get to the wash-up from previous Melbourne Cups. Prince of Penzance, obvious one. Started at $127 Betfair starting price when he won. Hit $200 in play, believe it or not. Cross counter, the other one. Hit $200 in play, cross counter when he won, and obviously a $9.42 Betfair starting price. So a couple of interesting stats there. It's always a fascinating watch on the Betfair market.
Well, and that's it. You look at those horses. I mean, cross counter. I was watching that replay last night. I hadn't seen it in quite some time, and you forget just how far back he got. He was so far out of his ground, and even at the 200, he still looked like he had a lot of ground to make up, but really sprinted late. I mean, Prince of Penzance, no surprise, even though he was in the right spot, as a $127 chance already, you just wouldn't have thought that he was any chance, but there you go.
Amazing. Let's head to a couple of other races, then we'll get to your best bets around the country or around Flemington and other races. But the Maribyrnong Plate, Group 3, always an interesting race. You might have a bit of mail for us. Can you talk to us about this?
Yeah, I was speaking to a couple of people from the Godolphin team yesterday after In Secret managed to win the Coolmore Stud Stakes, and they said that if you'd asked them their best of the week, it would have been Zolfika, who was the winner of the Maribyrnong Trial in the Maribyrnong Plate. So hoping that they were saying Zolfika best of the week.
Wet track, no issue?
Don't think so. Exceed and Excel probably should be okay. Had gone okay on a soft track. I mean, I think there might be a little bit of concern, but again, they've all got to get through it, and he's at least had that race experience.
Race experience, straight track experience, winner. Yeah, I think there's a really good record backing 2-year-olds off a win.
Yes.
Really profitable. So back 2-year-olds off a win and they win again. So you're with Zolfika. Looks hard to beat in race 1. We head to race 9, the Hong Kong Jockey Club Stakes, a race that you should find a winner in.
Well,
spend a lot of your life in Hong Kong. I'm with Promise of Success here. It comes off the invitation win. I think it's the right form. Barrier 1 worries me greatly, but McAvoy's just got to get her off the fence. And she will be very hard to beat. I'll be interested in Roots if she gets a start as well down the very, very bottom there. Barry 15, Damien Oliver on board. Keep an eye on Roots. Which way are you leaning in the Group 3?
I'm very much hoping Roots gets a run, because I think if Roots gets a run, she would definitely be who I'd be with here. Promise of Success, as you said, very good win in the invitation. We saw, was it last year's invitation winner, Ice Bath, come out and win the Empire Rose. So, there's potentially that
looks the right form.
It does, and obviously Ice Bath this year was behind Promise of Success. I think that 10-day turnaround is a real promise. But there's a number of chances in here. I'll be keeping an eye on the horses like Decent Rain getting up to the 1400 metres as well. Probably drawn in the right spot to be able to keep off the fence, but also to enjoy a decent run. So I'll be keeping an eye on Decent Rain. But for me, yeah, I'd agree, Promise of Success.
I really like John O'Shea. I think he's targeting the Cup Carnival a lot more than he used to, and a lot of these Sydney trainers do. They often, you see these Sydney horses get to the end of the Flemington Carnival, and obviously they've been up for so long because they were targeting Sydney races early in the Carnival. I think he's planning to hit this Carnival.
And I think the other thing too is that given the way that the Sydney Carnival's shifting, obviously now you've got a lot
Sydney
more
Carnival goes for another 6 months.
Oh, it feels like it's never ending. Actually, you speak to people up there and it's like, oh, we're at the Villiers, and then there's no break now.
No.
But the thing is that as opposed to that earlier time where, as you say, they would have been up in August and September. Now a lot more of them are up for races in October, which means that there's less of a difficulty coming down for some of these races.
True. Promising success for me there from Roots. Hope she gets a run. Any other best bets on the program?
I think that earlier in the card, race 2, which is the Macca's run, it's the 2,800 metre, the Melbourne Cup Consolation. White Marlin will be winning there, and I think White Marlin will be a legitimate Melbourne Cup horse next year. Very good in 2 starts so far in Australia. I saw him at the beach the other morning, and he's absolutely thriving. He's a really hulking type, very impressive type. I'm sure you'll see him on Tuesday, and I'm hoping that we see a real good performance from him.
I agree with you. I think he's probably the better bet on the program. White Marlin, race 2, number 7 there. He's got form around Manzois, if you don't mind. Beat Manzois at Rose Hill in benchmark 72 a couple of starts ago, and obviously won on the Wednesday on a wet track, so ticks that box. He's a really nice horse. Hawk, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. I don't think we have anything more to do.
No,
Thanks
not really.
for joining me.
Let's hope
It's been
we
a
can
couple
find
of years since I've hung out this long.
It has, hasn't it? I know. It's been a while. We've known each other for a decade or so, and haven't had the chance to catch up. But it's been really good. And as I say, hopefully we can find the winner of the Cup and a couple of other winners there on Tuesday as well.
Find a winner, go well. SMOKIN Romans on top for Hawk, Deauville legend, and without a fight in the mix for both of us. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back to do an Oaks Day and a Stakes Day preview as well. It's been a pleasure. Lay back with Betfair. Gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-858-858.